I salute you all. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. So basically today we are under the law of negligence, and today we are going to look at causation, stroke remoteness of damage, and meanwhile also the eggshell skull thin rule. And basically, as we are determining it using our third element of negligence. Here I have breach, we have duty of care, we have breach of duty of care, and we have injury stroke damages. Now here we're going to look at the causation and the remoteness of damages. You get. So basically under causation, stroke remoteness of damage, two questions are being asked. You get. Two questions are always being asked. The first one, the plaintiff must establish that the damages are as a result of the actions of the defendant. That is one of it. The other one, the plaintiff must show that the nature of damages are recoverable. Those are the two elements. One of it is the defendant, that the injury or the damage as a result of the action of the defendant. Secondly, that the damages are recoverable. That is also key. So when you look at the causation, under causation, we use the Bradford test. You get the Bradford. It is called the Bradford test. Under the Bradford test, we say that the plaintiff must establish that the damage would not have occurred, but for the act of the defendant, it occurred. That's where the Bradford test comes in. That they establish that the injury or the damage would not have occurred, but for the actions of the defendant, it occurred. That is under causation. It implies that the defendant must be the one who must have engineered and committed that particular damage. Basically, we have the case of Bennett versus Chelsea Hospital. Bennett versus Chelsea Hospital. In this essence, these were two night watchmen who fell ill after taking tea that had poison. So when they were taken in the hospital, they called the doctor. The doctor delayed to come in, and they later died. So the doctor was sued for negligence. You get. But however, the court held that the doctor's defense was, even if I managed to come, those patients were going to die because the poison was in excess. You get. Even if I came, the poison was excess, so they would have died. So me not coming and coming, they meant the same. So the court held that the doctor was negligent, but was not the cause of the death of the two patients. So that is the Bradford test, how it comes in. You get that, Bennett versus Chelsea. Then we also have the case of Qualcast versus Hines. Qualcast, this was an employee, you get, who didn't use the safety boots that were provided to him. So as a result, he encountered damages. You get, he encountered damages. So it was held that the defendant was liable for not advising the plaintiff not to put on the safety boots. But the court held that the defendant had supplied the safety boots to the employee, which means the onus, it was like contributory negligence. You get. It was his own making that he failed to put on the boots. So in this essence, the defendants were not negligent. Reason being that the damage that was caused, or the injury, was the sole cause. The plaintiff was the sole cause of his own accident and subsequent the subsequent injury. In this essence, you get. Similarly, also in the case of Mark Williams versus Sir Williams, still had the same concept, whereby it was the plaintiff's sole cause for his death. Actually, these employees were to build and they failed while they died, among others. So it was an action that was brought up by a widow. You get. But the court held that it was the sole cause of the defendant, of the plaintiff, basically. You get. That is also a similar case. That's to deal with causation under the Bradford test. Now, another one, what we are looking at is that the plaintiff must prove that the damages he or she suffered are actually recoverable. You get? What do I mean by actually recoverable? In this essence, not every damages are recoverable. We have two elements that deal with damages that are recoverable. One of it is directness of the defendant is what? Action. Second is foreseeability. Those are the two elements that are used to determine whether the damages are what? Recoverable. But we have two principal cases that give that precedence. First of all, we have the Remoteness case of 1921. The Remoteness case, in this essence, the court, the stevedores' actions, actually, these were workers. The plaintiff, the defendant, these were his workers, the stevedores. So they were held to be what? Liable. You get? They are held to be liable. But here the court held that the damages were recoverable, though not foreseeable. Reason being that the actions of the stevedores were direct. You get? But they were not for their actions were not foreseeable, but they were direct. That is in the case of Remoteness. You get? But however, in the Wagon Mound case of 1961, they got diverted, overturned the precedent that was in Remoteness, whereby here they looked at foreseeability, you get, whereby they held that the defendant did not foresee that the spoiled oil will catch fire. However much the act was direct, but they didn't foresee that this spoiled oil could cause fire. So in this essence, court held that the plaintiff could not recover damages. Reason being that their actions were not foreseeable. The damage, though the injury that was created, was not what? Foreseeable. That is Wagon Mound case. It diverted from the precedent that was in Remoteness. So in this essence, what you have to know that under the precedent or the recoverable, the principle that was in Wagon Mound, it does not apply to personal injuries, basically. It does not apply to personal injuries. So in this essence, what you have to bear in mind, or what you have to put in mind, is that under here, where damages are recoverable, the major issue that you must prove is that in this essence, it was not on personal injuries, but the key element is foreseeability. The actions, or you must have foresaw the damage, basically, in this essence. And why do I say that does not deal with two personal injuries? You have the case of Smith versus Lynch, Brainco. Smith versus Branch is BLECH. Brainco is BRAINCO. Under this case, this was a person that was unemployed as a something, those people that do metal. So as a result, while he was doing his work, he encountered an injury from a molten liquid. You get? So the court held that actually he developed cancer and later died. But the court held that the holding in Wagon Mound did not apply to the case of personal injuries, basically. However, in this essence, what we can relate to, or the concept that we can relate to, is the concept of the eggshell skin, the eggshell skull thin rule. Actually, that is the doctrine, basically. And the eggshell skull thin rule, basically, in this essence, it is where a person who caused the accident will be financially responsible for the actual damages caused, basically, in this essence, caused, in fact, that they look at the average, the damages that are caused in this essence. So in this essence, it makes the defendant liable for the plaintiff for the unforeseen under the eggshell skull rule. The plaintiff or the defendant is liable for the plaintiff's unforeseen uncommon reactions to the defendant's negligent and intentional act. We have what they call the Talem Qualem rule. You take your victim as you find them. You found them. You get? You take your victim the way you found him. That is the Talem Qualem rule in this essence. That you must make sure that I found my victim without a scar. So I have to take him, this I have to take him like that. That I found him without a scar. Yeah, that's how it has to be. You get? That is the Talem Qualem rule, basically. So when you look at the eggshell scar rule, in this essence, what we are looking at is that even the plaintiff can recover even the damages that are unforeseeable. You get? The damages are unforeseeable. For example, we have the case of Page versus Smith. Page versus Smith. In this case, realize that the plaintiff had a disorder, had a disease. So this disease, after having this, it was silent inside. So after having this disease, he encountered into a minor accident with the defendant. So this was just a minor accident and it caused no injury. But however, it stimulated the disease that was inside. You get? So as a result, at the end of the day, he sued. Reason being that when it stimulated the disease that was inside, he was unable to perform his job as a teacher. You get? So in this essence, what court had to say that he could recover for the damages. But the defendant was saying that I didn't know that the plaintiff had that disease. But the court applied the Talem Qualem rule that you take your victim the way you found him. However, mind it was a minor accident, but however, it brought up the disease that was inside him that was quiet. That is the case of Page versus Smith. Also, in the case of Smith versus Abrahams, still brought up that eggshell scar rule, whereby the plaintiff can recover even the damages that are unforeseeable. Basically, here realize that this one encountered into a motor accident. So as a result, he claimed for the market value of the motor vehicle. He also claimed for the money of a vehicle that he must use as an interim vehicle so that he can finish up his business. This person was contending what. But however, court had this to say that a defendant cannot use the extraordinary vulnerability of the plaintiff. What do I mean by the extraordinary vulnerability? Is that because a person has lost a vehicle, so he cannot afford a new one. So he can say, no, that one, even if it wasn't an accident, he could not get a new one. No. The defendant cannot use the extra vulnerability of the defendant as a defense, basically. And in this essence, the rule is under the eggshell scar rule, the Talim Quarem rule, take the victim the way you found him. So the eggshell scar rule allows the plaintiff to recover even the damages or the injuries that are that they are unforeseeable. That regards the case of Smith versus Abrahams. The plaintiff was even allowed to recover the money of renting a vehicle as he's waiting to buy his new vehicle that was damaged, so that he can conduct his business. So basically, that's the sum that we can talk about remoteness, remoteness of damages, and causation, basically in line with the eggshell skull rule. But other than that, thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Stay blessed and good luck.